My name is Mamadou Samba, and I am a child of the African diaspora. I'm from Senegal, West Africa, which is on the west coast of Africa. Senegal has played a very significant role in the historically, when you look at the slave trade, because it has an island that is known as Gorée Island, which is where many slaves were actually kept in Africa before they were exported to either the United States, South Africa, South America, and other countries. And that island is called Gorée Island, through the doors of no return. I came to the United States a few times, actually. My father worked at the Senegalese embassy as a diplomat. Through that, I came to visit my family when he was here with my mother. And then I went back. But I came back in '95, and I stayed as a young immigrant. By that time, my father's service has ended, and he went back. So I came right after his term at the embassy ended. My sisters were already here, so I came to join them, and they took responsibility over me, even though I was old enough to do so by myself, but they were already here. And being an African, those who are older than you are essentially your mothers and your fathers. So I didn't have a choice. I came and stayed with my sisters down here on 16th Street. And my first high school was actually back down here at Bell Multicultural High School. So that has been the start of my life as an immigrant in the United States. And my first years and days in the United States was mainly highlighted by the fact that I realized that people didn't know anything about Africa, the country that I, held very dear in my heart. Besides what people saw on TV, the stereotypical images about Africa, people being hungry, AIDS, HIV/AIDS, and the usual starving community, backward community, less advanced than others. People didn't know anything else about where I came from. And that was very surprising to me. The first few years was, I hit culture shock in a way. I was very surprised to see a homeless person in the United States. Despite all the advancements that the United States has, I was very surprised to see a homeless person, because that doesn't exist where I come from. Even though we're not as rich or as advanced, homelessness is something that I've never seen. So I was very surprised by that. I was also very surprised, like I said, to see that people knew nothing at all about where I came from. So I spent most of my early years of high school trying to convince my friends about those misconceptions that they had about Africa. Misconceptions like no, we don't live next door to lions and tigers in Africa. That no, Africa is not a country. And Nelson Mandela is not the president of Africa. Yes, we do wear clothes. And yes, I took a plane coming here. We don't swim across the Atlantic. So that was the main challenges that I faced as a young immigrant, besides the fact that I didn't speak English that well. I spoke very little English, so I spent a lot of time in classrooms and in the neighborhood pretending like I understood everything that everybody was saying, when in actuality I understood very little about what they were saying. So culture shock was the first issue that I had to deal with. And identity issues, because you come here as a young African. Yes, you're black, you have black skin, and you see other people who are also black like you, but what are you? So many of my friends, as I remembered, and even me sometimes, I was guilty of that. There was a time where you were even ashamed to say you were from Africa because of what people understood Africa to be. So people would always say, I'm from Jamaica, because Jamaica was cooler than Africa. Or people would say, I'm from France, because you speak French. People would but shortly after, I decided, and I realized that in order for people to respect me as a person, in order for people to see me in order to project myself as someone who's proud of where he's from, I have to assume that I'm from Africa. And ever since then, I'm very proud to say that I'm from Africa. I left Washington and I went to Atlanta. My family moved to Atlanta, and again, like I said, I didn't have a choice. I just had to be dragged, so I went to Atlanta to finish high school in Atlanta. But after high school, I really spent my time doing nothing. I had no plans, really. I finished high school, and college was an option. I really didn't prepare to go to college. So I spent most of my time selling T-shirts on the streets of Atlanta, working in restaurants, cleaning tables, working 2 to 3 jobs, playing soccer, hanging out with friends. Really, that's what I was doing. I really didn't have a plan A or plan B. I was selling T-shirts on the sidewalk of Atlanta, fixing watches, selling watches at the flea market, which was good. I think looking back, that helped me a lot. That helped me be the person that I want to be. Shortly after that, I decided that I have to go to college. I have to get an education. But there was no way to pay for it. Education is very expensive in the United States, which is another challenge that African Americans face. I didn't have the luxury of my parents giving me $50,000 to pay for my education. I had to find my own way. I met a coach who sent me to South Carolina to meet his friend. His name is Ike Ofoji. He recruited me to come play soccer at the University of South Carolina in Aiken. And he told me, I'm not bringing you here to play soccer. I'm bringing you here to go to school. I recruit soccer players, but I want them to go to school. So he promised to put me on the right track. So I took faith. I had faith in that. So I went to South Carolina to get my education. I decided to stay in South Carolina as a way to prove to myself that I can overcome challenges. I didn't know what challenges there would be. Looking back, that decision has been the most important decision in my life. And those 4 years eventually become the hardest 4 years of my life, period, that I've never imagined. Back home, we had everything we needed. We never went to bed hungry. My father gave us everything we needed. My parents gave us everything we needed. But when I stayed in South Carolina, so first I had to find a way to pay for my tuition. And I had no way to pay for my tuition. My first job in college, as I tell the story sometime, I was earning $15 a week on Wednesdays. $15 a week was my entire budget in college. I end up agreeing with my financial director to payment plans that required me to pay for my tuition in installments. So in other words, I will enroll in a semester, and they'll give me 3 months to pay for my tuition, $500 at a time, whenever I could get it. The goal was, you have to make sure you paid before the end of the semester so you can enroll in the next semester. So I ended up, for about 4 years of college, that's what I did, pay for my tuition in installment. I mean, it got better my last year. While most of my students, my friends, come to class at the beginning of the semester with their books, I would buy my books usually halfway through the semester, or sometimes even later during the semester, which meant I was always catching up to my classmates, or just trying to get a barely passing grade to enroll in the next semester. So that was the challenge of my life. Coming to America, and you look at the dichotomy here. People think of Africa as being poor. People are hungry. But I had to come to the United States to go to bed hungry many times. I will fast during the month of Ramadan, but at the end of it, I would have no food, mainly just peanuts and water. But I will always make sure to do what I'm supposed to do, even though things weren't always good. So between high school and now, if I had to write a book about my life, I would mainly focus on those 4 years of those challenges that we face. And I wasn't the only one. There were many immigrants who were there with me, who faced, if not harder, but way more harder challenges than I did. But I had an opportunity to grow up in a family that put values of dignity, of sincerity, of hard work, and going out as far as you can before you give up, if give up ever exists. So I use that as a way for me to overcome those challenges, and I'm glad I went through that. Even during tough times back then, we would always say, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, whatever that means. right? We always think that one day we'll look back and we'll laugh at those times. And we do. I call my roommate sometimes and we'll joke about when we were, sharing a handful of peanuts, But I always also believe that with hard work and dedication to whatever you commit to, things can be better. I don't know exactly what I'll be doing. I mean, looking back, I knew I always wanted to be in public service. I knew I wanted to be in a place where I'm serving or giving back to my community. I didn't know it's going to be this, the director of the Office of African Affairs. And there's so much more to be accomplished. But I always believed that, as a Muslim, right, I believe that sometimes God puts you through certain challenges to test you, right? And then if you overcome them, there's a reward at the end of it. But you have to be able to handle that and handle that and you have to be able to deal with that. Those are just tests in life, So I did that without much complaint. Most people wouldn't even know unless I told them. And most still don't know. I think my professors found out the week we were graduating, and they took us to dinner and they asked us to tell our stories, and I told my stories. So the whole 4 years that I was there, many of them never even realized what we were going through as immigrants. So I always believed, and I'm always, aiming for the next challenge. The harder the better. The harder the better. The challenges are numerous. For one, when you first come, many don't have the support system that I did. And beside my sisters there, I don't even know if that was all the support system that I needed. But many do come and just go straight to an uncle or a friend or a cousin or someone they don't even know, they don't have that relationship with them. So many of the immigrants do face those challenges. When they come, now what? You got to work, you got to earn a living, you don't speak English very well, you're either undocumented, you don't know how to navigate the system. It's a very complicated, complex system. If you take the healthcare industry, for example, you have African countries where most government healthcare programs most healthcare insurance are government sponsored. You come to the United States where you deal any day from HMOs to PPOs to POSs to fee-for-service. You have all of these complicated system where someone who comes in at first and doesn't have the support system will have a tough time navigating those challenges. And plus you come as an African, for one, you are put in a box because you speak with an accent, you're from Africa, and you, in a sense, people see you as someone who's not as advanced, or you come from a poor country, or you come from a country that doesn't have anything, so you have to come to the United States to earn a living, which may be true in many cases. But support system is one of the major challenges. Two, you come in a country where, so yeah, you African, but then again you have our African American counterparts. And sometimes there has been challenges where they sort of saw us as people who don't like the African American community, or because we thought we were more African than they were, or we thought we were blacker than they were. Not in terms of skin color, but in terms of origin. So that's one of the major challenges that I face myself. And I think another challenge that we face as immigrants is really the lack of debate that includes us. Many discussions have been held about immigration. But again, when we mention immigration, it's always about the Latino community and very little about the African community. So I mean, I think those are mainly some of the challenges that I think I face. But the most important one has to always be the stigma and the stereotype that people see Africans to be. And I think those are issues that we've tried to address myself as a human being through dialogue, through conversation, through partnership with other friends, community organization, and neighborhood associations. In the African community, sense of community is really geared towards neighborhood associations or country-based associations or culture-focused associations. So you have a lot of Africans, as soon as they land, whether the Ethiopian community or the Senegalese community or other communities, they join a neighborhood association, the Senegalese association of whatever, the Ethiopian association of whatever. And this is where they find a sense of community or organizational activities that are ethnic focused or country focused. So this has been in lieu of something different, a place where people go because members of this association speak the same language they speak. They understand the same culture that they come from. They are understood better. They are not misjudged. They are not put in a box or they are not stigmatized. And this is where people feel comfortable. So whether it is a religious organization, either Muslims or Christians or Hindu or whichever faith people practice, this is where a sense of community really starts. But I find that a small problem with that is it tends to be limited to just those people that are from that country or that are part of that culture. So there's little interaction with other communities or other cultures or other people from other countries. And I think that could add to the diversity, that could add to the promotion of dialogue, and that could add to addressing challenges that all of those communities face. Because you have all of these organizations that are small organizations. Each one of them is addressing healthcare or jobs or public safety. Each one of them is addressing it separately from everybody else. So there's a repetition of efforts. There's a duplication of efforts. Resources are being wasted only if we could do this together as one larger community rather than separate institutions and separate communities. I like the fact that people love this city. It's a small city, but people love this city. I mean, I've only been here for a couple of years, and I cannot tell you how much I love being in the city, District of Columbia. And to me, landing here as an immigrant a couple of years ago and now coming back to work here, it feels like full circle for me. I am an adopted son, as the mayor put it, of the district. And there are so many people like me. When you walk down U Street, you look at how diverse the city is. Ethiopians, Ghanaians, Russians. You have people from all walks of life that come to DC for either work, family. And to me, it reminds me of where I come from, because Senegal is a very welcoming city. It's very diverse. You will see people from all countries coming to Senegal for business, work, family. So I mean, I feel that it is welcoming. This metropolitan area is the second largest metropolitan area with the largest number of African immigrants, is proof that more and more immigrants are picking Washington, D.C. as a top destination choice. So I do like the fact that it is welcoming, it is diverse, and people can really have a chance of pursuing their dreams, whatever dream that may be. The future, in my opinion, is very bright. The African community is the fastest growing immigrant group in the United States, even more so than those from Latin American countries, some have argued. When you look at the African Americans, the diaspora, we send over $50 billion in remittances back home. Now, more and more governments are interested in our work. What can person A do in a country A? Why can't they go back home and do it there? Because they have the skill, they have the talent. On U Street, for example, you have many Ethiopian-owned businesses there. So the future is just very bright. More Africans have invested in home mortgage loans here than in New York or Los Angeles, for example. And you think about their children, those who were born here, people who are just like Barack Obama, for example. Parents are Africans. So same, you have second or third generation immigrants that are born here and that are doing just fantastic, going to the biggest schools, coming out, getting the very best jobs. So I mean, I think the future for the African diaspora is just I'm very hopeful of what we are able to, what we are, the direction in the going. But we also have to take lessons from our brothers and sisters from the Latino community. They've been here longer than we have. They are more settled. They are more structured. So we have to be able to take what worked for them and apply it in our community. But overall, I am confident that the African American community will continue to play a significant role in policy decisions, economic contribution, health and human services, in whatever category that may be, in education and so on and so on. There has to be an opportunity for us to tell our stories. There has to be an opportunity for us to dictate the dialogue rather than letting somebody else tell our own stories. And I think that's been one of the major issues that we have. People have been telling our own stories for a long time, but we have to tell our own stories. We have to be able to let people know that Africa is not just about a festival or a soccer game, or it has to be about jobs, it has to be about employment, it has to be about public safety, it has to be about all of those things that anybody, whether you are black or white or resident of the district, cares about. It has to be about those things as well. So we have to be able to create a platform where our stories are heard, our issues are addressed. We are in a good place right now. People are engaged, people are energetic, people are motivated to be part of the discussion. And I think we have to do a good job at, again, changing the narrative in many ways.